Now the question number 21. Three capacitors of capacitances C1 is equal to 2 microfarads, C2 is equal to 3 microfarads, C3 is equal to 5 microfarads are connected in series. A potential difference of 155 volts is applied across the combination. Choose the correct statement. So here A, B, C, D are the correct statements is given, but out of all these ones the common point is least potential and C equivalent. So first of all we will calculate the C equivalent. So first of all here C1, C2 and C3 connected in series. So that means 1 by C equivalent is equal to C1 plus C2 plus C3. So that means 1 by 2 plus 1 by 3 plus 1 by 5. So that means 1 by C is equal to, here combination of that 1 by C is equal to, LCM we will take this one as 30, 2 15s are, 3 10s are, 5 6s are, this is 31 divided by 30, but here combination C equivalent is equal to 30 divided by 31 microfarads. But one thing remember here, observing all these ones, 30 by 31 is present in A, C and D. So that means we will neglect B. Now to find charge, charge is equal to Q is equal to C into V. C is nothing but 30 by 31 into V applied, that is 155, 31 5s, that is what happens here, 5 into 30, that is 150 microfarads. Now I will calculate potential difference, that is PD across C1, that is V1 is equal to Q by C1. Q is nothing but 150 divided by C1 is nothing but 2 is equal to 75 volts, and here PD, that means potential difference across C2, that is V2 is equal to Q by C2, that is 150 divided by 3 is equal to 50 volts, and then potential difference across C3, that is V3 is equal to Q by C3, Q 150 divided by, that is 5 is equal to 30 volts. Among all these ones, least potential occurs at PD across C3, that is least potential. So here in this one, least potential occurs, where the least potential occurs, C3 the least potential occurs, where the C equivalent is 30 by 31. So which option is correct here among these two? Option A is correct. Now the question number 22. In a series LCR circuit, that is inductance, capacitance and resistance circuit, the inductive resistance is twice the resistance and the capacitive reactance is 1/3 of the inductive reactance. Once again, the inductive resistance is twice the resistance and capacitive reactance is 1/3 of the inductive resistance. Calculate the power factor of the circuit. So in LCR circuit, which is connected in series, inductive resistance can be denoted by XL and capacitive inductance can be denoted by XC, and impedance, that is Z. Impedance is very important factor to calculate the power factor. So that means, so here power factor cos phi is equal to resistance divided by Z. Z is nothing but impedance. To calculate the power factor required impedance. So first of all we will calculate impedance. So here impedance Z is equal to square root over R square plus XL minus XC whole square. So one thing we have to remember, that is very clear cut information they gave. XL is equal to 2R and XC is equal to XL by 3. Now substitute in this case square root over R square plus 2R minus XL divided by 3 whole square. On simplifying of this one, we are getting the answer as square root over 25R square divided by 9 is equal to 5R by 3. This is Z. But here power factor required, no? Cos phi is equal to R divided by 5R by 3. R cancel, 3 by 5. So 3 by 5 is nothing but 0.6. So which option is correct? Option C is correct. Now the question number 23, the deflection produced in a tangent galvanometer whose coil has a resistance of 9 ohms is 30 degrees. The PD across the coil is 4.5 volts. If the number of turns in the coil is 10, the radius of the coil is how much? And BH, that is magnetic field, is equal to 3.14 into 10 to the power of minus 5 Tesla. So first of all, what are the given values we will write? That is, resistance is equal to 9 ohms and the deflected angle, that is 30 degrees, and potential difference which is applied, that is 4.5 volts, and number of turns is equal to 10. Then afterwards horizontal magnetic field, that is 3.14 into 10 to the power of minus 5 Tesla. And which one we want to calculate here? Radius of coil we want to calculate. To calculate the radius of the coil, first of all we will calculate the current. Current I is equal to V by R. So V means what is that here? 4.5 and radius is 9. So 4.5 by 9 is equal to 0.5 amperes. Then afterwards we are having the formula, current I is equal to 2 into R BH tan theta, deflection here, divided by mu naught into N. But I want to calculate radius. R is equal to mu naught N into I divided by 2 tan theta into BH. Now mu naught means 4 pi into 10 to the power of minus 7 into number of turns is 10 and current is 0.5 divided by 2 into tan 30 degrees into BH, that is 3.14 into 10 to the power of minus 5. So here 4 pi into 10 to the power of minus 7 into 10 into 0.5 tan 30 1 by root 3 multiplied with root 3 divided by 2 into 3.14 into 10 to the power of minus 5. By simplification of this one, we are getting the answer as 10 root 3 into 10 to the power of minus 2 meters. 10 root 3 into 10 to the power of minus 2, 10 to the power of minus 2 meters. So which option is correct here? Option B is correct. Now the question number 24. An ideal Carnot engine with an efficiency of 30% operates between a source and a sink if the temperature of source is 500 Kelvin and that of sink is how much? So first of all, here that is Carnot engine. So efficiency is equal to 30% is nothing but 30 divided by 100 is nothing but 0.3%. Then temperature of the source is given. So that means temperature of source is equal to T1 is equal to 500 Kelvin, and to calculate the temperature of sink is nothing but T2. But here we are having the formula efficiency eta is equal to 1 minus T2 divided by T1. So then what happens here? 0.3 is equal to 1 minus T2 divided by 500. So that means T2 divided by 500 is equal to 1 minus 0.3. So that means T2 divided by 500 is equal to 0.7. T2 is equal to 0.7 into 500 and T2 is equal to 350 Kelvin. So that means 350 minus 273 degrees centigrade. On subtraction of this one, we are getting 77 degrees centigrade is the answer. Option is C. Now the question number 25. The diagram shows stress versus strain curve for the materials A and B. From the curves we can infer that A is brittle but B is ductile. A is ductile but B is brittle, but both A and B are ductile, but both A and B are brittle. But here metals is having some special properties. Those are malleable, ductile and brittleness. Malleable is nothing but able to hammered or pressed into shape without breaking or cracking, and ductile is nothing but able to drawn into thin wires, and brittleness is nothing but it is appears to be hard but liable to break easily. So these were the three properties. So the diagram shows stress versus strain graph. Curve that materials A and B. From the curves we can infer that which one is brittle, which one is ductile. So here ductile is nothing but what is the drawn into thin wires. So that means it is having the property it resists to so much amount of stress. So that's why A is ductile and B is brittle. Appears to be hard but liable to break easily. So that's why option B is correct. Now the question number 26. A ball is projected upwards from a height h above the surface of the earth with velocity v. The time at which the ball strikes the ground is how much? So here first of all it is the from certain height h, from there a ball which is projected with velocity v at from the point O, when it reaches to the maximum height, that is point A, and again returns in the downward direction when it reaches to the point B, then afterwards here also velocity v only, when it reaches to the ground, when touches to the ground, it velocity changes. So when it is comes down with the velocity v only. So here starting from v and here coming v and all these ones. So first of all, which one we want to calculate here? That is the time at which the ball strikes the ground. How much time it will take to strike the ground? That means here. So how you will calculate? First of all, we will calculate from here to here how much time taken. Then afterwards from here to here how much time taken. Then afterwards total from here to here we will calculate the time. That means from here to here, here to here and here to here. Adding all those ones we will get that answer. So first of all, time taken by the ball to reach from O to A, that is time of ascent, that is V by G. Then afterwards time taken by ball to reach from O to B, that is time of ascent plus time of descent. That means TOA plus TOB is equal to V by G plus V by G is equal to 2 times V by G. T, that is OB, is nothing but T2. Remember, this is very, very important content. Then afterwards we want to find the time taken by ball to reach from B to, here the position we will take this one as C. So from B to C. So that means time taken to reach from B to C. This one we will calculate. To calculate that one, first of all we will write the formula H is equal to Vt plus half Gt square. So on multiplication 2h is equal to Vt into t plus gt square. So here gt square plus 2Vt minus 2h is equal to 0. Here A is equal to G and B is equal to 2V and C is equal to minus 2H. So these are the contents we are having. We know the formula x is equal to minus b plus or minus square root over b square minus 4ac by 2a. When we are substituting the values here, t is equal to minus 2v plus or minus square root over 2v whole square minus 4 into g times minus 2h divided by 2 into a is nothing but 2g. So by calculation t is equal to minus v by g plus or minus square root over v square plus 2gh divided by g. But here we will take only positive value because time never be negative. So this one we will take as, this is the time t2 here, this time I will take as t here. But here we want to calculate total time taken by the ball to reach the ground. That is very important one. So that means total time means t is equal to, initially we drawn that is t and now here t. So what is t here? 2v by g, and this t is nothing but minus v by g plus square root over v square plus 2gh divided by g, and here subtraction of these two we will get v by g plus square root over v square plus 2gh divided by g, and here v by g plus square root over v square plus 2gh divided by g square. G will move into the square root. So here v by g plus square root over v square by g square plus 2gh divided by g square, and here v by g plus here v by g as common square root 1 plus 2gh divided by v square, here common, is equal to, what happens in this one, v by g as common 1 plus square root over 1 plus 2gh divided by v square. So it is the answer. Now which option is correct here? Option C is correct. Now the question number 27. A force F is equal to 5 I cap plus 4 j cap newtons acts on a body and produces a displacement S is equal to 6 I cap minus 5 j cap plus 3 k cap meters. Work done by the force is how much? So simply, first of all, given force vector is equal to 5 I cap plus 4 j cap and displacement that is given 6 I cap plus 3 k cap minus 5 j cap. This is newtons, this is meters. So vector. But here which one we want to calculate here? Work done. So that means work done by the force W is equal to F vector dot S vector. This is dot product of two vectors. So here force means what is that here? 5 I cap plus 4 j cap, but here k cap is given, but here no k cap, so that's why I will take 0 k cap dot product of 6 I cap minus 5 j cap plus 3 k cap dot product I into I, that is 1, 5 6 are 30, 4 into minus 5, minus 20, plus 0 into that is 0. So 30 minus 20, how much here? 10. So 10 joules is the answer. Which option is correct here? Option A is correct. Now the question number 28. First law of thermodynamics is represented by A, B, C, D options are given. First of all, what is meant by the first law of thermodynamics? First law of thermodynamics states that the quantity of heat absorbed by the system, is equal to the sum of the increase in its internal energy and external work done by the system on the surroundings. Once again, the quantity of heat absorbed by the system, which is equal to the sum of the increase in internal energy and the external work done by the system on the surroundings. So that is the first law of thermodynamics, and here delta Q is equal to delta U plus P into delta V. So dQ is equal to du plus dW. Where it is present here? Option A is correct. Now the question number 29. A disk of moment of inertia I1 is rotating with angular velocity omega 1. Another disk of moment of inertia I2 which is not rotating is gently put on the first disk. The angular speed of the system will be what happens. So first of all, here this is the disk and this is the disk which is rotating with the moment of inertia I1 and angular velocity omega 1. But here another disk is there, that disk which is not rotating, it is not rotating, but the moment of inertia must be I2. So remember, then what happens here? This one is put on this disk. So that means what happens here? This is disk 1, on that we are placing another disk. So now what happens to the moment of inertia? That is mu moment of it, that here we will get I1, I2 moment of inertia, and what is the angular velocity that required? Omega 2 is required. We know that I1 omega 1 is equal to I2 omega 2. So in this one what happens here? I1 omega 1 is equal to I2 is nothing but what is that? One disk is placed on another disk. So that means I1 plus I2 into omega 2. But I want to calculate the omega 2 is equal to I1 divided by I1 plus I2 into omega 1. So which option is correct here? I1 divided by I1 plus I2 into omega 1. Option B is correct. Now here the question number 30. Light from a source travels out with a velocity c. If the source moves away from the observer with a velocity v, then the relative velocity of light with respect to observer is how much? So first of all, here light source, which is light coming from the source with a velocity c, if to moving towards the observer, then what happens here? Here observer is there. Once again, light from the source travels out with a velocity c. If the source moves away from the observer, if the source, this is the source, move away from the observer with velocity v, then the relative velocity with respect to observer, what happens here? So here the relative velocity with respect to observer. So light travels with velocity c. That means c is nothing but how much? 3 into 10 to the power of 8 meters per second. With respect to observer, with respect to source, that velocity cannot change. So that means the option is A correct.